Welcome to the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom with Dan Breslin.
Welcome to the REI Diamond Show with Engelo Rumora on building multi-million-dollar turnkey rental business. I'm Dan Breslin, host of the REI Diamond Show, and each week I invite another high-caliber investor to share their unique experience as it relates to real estate investing. Our guest today is Engelo Rumora, a.k.a. the Real Estate Dingo. Engelo has an interesting backstory. A native of Australia, hence the Dingo name, Engelo quit school at the age of 14 and played professional soccer at 18 before buying his first investment property in February of 2011. Since then, he's closed more than 350 real estate transactions and founded Ohio Cash Flow, a multi-million-dollar turnkey real estate investment company based in Toledo, Ohio, that specializes in providing turnkey properties in the Toledo, Dayton, Cincinnati, and Columbus, Ohio markets. I've checked out Engelo, his marketing online, and two things immediately stood out to me. For those of you who are listening who've seen some of my own internet presence, you'll know that I have an eye when I see that in other people's marketing. So number one, Engelo's a hustler. He works his ass off. And number two, Engelo understands marketing. That said, I'm excited to extract the most valuable wisdom Engelo has to share on this episode, so let's get rocking and rolling. Welcome to the show, Engelo.
Dan, thanks for having me. And I just want to stress that I'm your number one highest caliber guest so far on your show, mate. All righty.
Nice. Fair enough. All right.
Yeah, awesome, mate. How are you?
Cool. Doing well, man. Things are good. I like to start these off by kind of letting people know who you are, where you came from. So if you could just give us like the Reader's Digest version of, what you did before real estate, how you got into real estate, and how you got to where you're at today, and kind of what your business looks like today.
Sure, mate. Now, happy to give everyone a rundown. So, look, as you mentioned, quit school at the age of 14. I was very fortunate to be able to, have my lifelong dream come to fruition when I signed a professional contract as a soccer player at the age of 18. And unfortunately, things didn't really work out there. I just didn't see pursuing, a career in soccer as a sustainable future where I could secure the financial future of my family, first of all, myself, and then, all of my other, friends and associates. So, with a very heavy heart, Dan, I decided to hang up the boots and pursue something else in life. I wanted to make sure that by the age of 30, I'm almost 30 right now, I'm 28 years old, that I can have, enough passive income and cash flow coming in where, myself and my family and everyone else can live the lifestyle that we want. Stop playing soccer. I started looking for what else is out there for me. I always knew that there was a bigger and better future out there for me. And the only job that I could get at the time, not having any formal education, right, because I quit school at the age of 14, was working at dirty construction sites in Sydney, downtown Sydney. I was a labourer. I was wearing those bloody, work boots and gloves and goggles and a helmet and, fluoro shirts so everyone can see me and not run me over with a forklift, right? And mate, I was working very hard for minimum pay. I was working 4 years, hustling and saving every penny, but still dreaming big, okay, dreaming big. And because I had no formal education then, even to this day, I can't read. It takes me 2 freaking hours to read 2 pages. I've got that, whatever they call it, ADHD thing, right? I can't type. Takes me 45 minutes to compose an email. It's like chop suey typing, right? I've got 2 fingers, and you can hear me type 2 words, and I've got to backspace 20 times. It's hilarious. Everyone always laughs. My grammar is pretty shocking too. So, just being the way I am and not having the basics of formal education, I had to develop myself personally. I had to find ways to grow. And as a laborer, as I said, I was working hard, but I was dreaming big, and I was attending a ton of seminars, ton of conventions, ton of expos, reading books, however slow they were and however long it took me to read it, I was still doing it. The big changing moment there, mate, was networking with people, okay, spending money on coffees, lunches, and dinners, asking questions of folks who already were where I wanted to be, okay? I was very fortunate that I established a relationship with someone that right now has a $100 million business in Australia, okay? And after hassling this guy for 6 months via phone, email, I was knocking on his door. I mean, you name it. I wanted to work for him. I wanted to be his apprentice. I wanted this guy to teach me everything and anything he knew about real estate. Took me 6 months to break through. And he took me under his wing, Dan, and I spent around a year and a half working for him, and he gave me the foundations of me being the real estate investor and entrepreneur that I am today. I mean, he taught me how to buy properties, how to sell properties, how to renovate them, how to talk to investors, how to talk to sellers, how to talk to realtors. I mean, marketing, branding, everything, you name it. Just a complete investor mentality and philosophy. And mate, look, I don't want to go on too long, but I ended up building a very large portfolio in Australia, which was an unsustainable portfolio because I was basing my investment decisions on hope that the properties were going to go up in value more than I was actually losing on my monthly mortgage repayments. So I was fortunate enough to quickly wake up and smell the roses, realize the mistake that I was making, that real estate should be about cash flow. Okay, how much money are you bringing in every single month? And I started liquidating my portfolio, started looking at where else can I find cash flowing properties that are going to give me the lifestyle that I want along with my family and friends and everyone else, right? That's why I started in real estate in the first place. And mate, the US market came across my desk somehow. I started digging into it more and more and more. And mate, I mean, look, you guys here, you had a big global financial crisis. The market was on its knees. The rumors were spreading worldwide about these $5, $10, $15, $20,000 properties. And then I caught the US bug. I literally, and this is no word of lie, I was engaged at the time. That fell through. Long story short there, we didn't proceed with taking our relationship further. I literally declined a high-paying job, 6 figures, company car, personal assistant, said goodbye to family and friends, everything and everyone that I've ever known behind, and moved to the US, mate. And here we are today, baby, moving and shaking. Love it.
Man, that's wild. I always love hearing, stories like that where people immigrate to another country. And I think that a lot of the people here maybe take for granted. We look around, here you are on the complete other side of the world, Engelo, and it comes across your desk and you have the balls to go all the way to another country on the other side of the world to make it happen. And here you look around and there's plenty of people here. And the same opportunity exists all around, left and right. And, so many people are just not attacking it to that same level. And I think that, it's important for people. And just so you know, we have a lot of people who are, very experienced. We have people who are at a moderate experience level who listen. And we have some new people who are also listening as well. And it's important to recognize that, that hustle. I mean, before we get into, the turnkey rentals and talking about rents and prices and all those things, can we just talk about the mindset? I mean, you mentioned finding a mentor. I mean, what other things would you say are critical to success in any business, not just real estate investing, but in order to be successful altogether, Engelo?
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great, Dan. And look, just to touch on something that you mentioned there, which is very important to me, and you're the second person that has ever touched on that. And I've had hundreds of interviews. And the one thing, mate, that I wish that people would actually respect me for, and no one has to date, right? They all just see the branding, the videos, the front cover of magazines, the the media mentions. I'm currently in the process of getting my own TV reality show. And no one understands that I had to leave everything and everyone behind. Everything and everyone that I've ever known, move into the unknown and start a new life here, right, mate? No one knows that I was depressed for over a year, mate. I was depressed. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know who to talk to. I mean, it was trying times, mate. So that's the only thing out of all of this hype and buzz that everyone can see right now. I wish they would just take their hat off and say, mate, how the hell did you move so far and start what you started here? I mean, just the fact that you are here right now. Let's say you don't have a multi-million-dollar real estate company. Let's just say that you adapted to a different life here. I mean, I salute you for that. So no one has ever said that, mate, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. So just wanted to touch on that. And, mate, in regards to success, look, I touched on earlier that I'm not the smartest guy out there, okay? I can't read well. My grammar sucks. My typing skills suck. But I hustle. And you touched on that too. I hustle every single day, mate. My ass is in the office at 7 a.m. I do not leave it until 7 p.m. Now, I've got a new little routine going where I go to sleep for 3 hours, right? And then I go back to work from around 10 p.m. till around 2 a.m. So I'm kind of working in cycles, right? Because I feel that I get the most productive from 10 till 2, Dan, because no one bothers me. I don't get interrupted by my staff, by phone calls, by emails. It's just me, myself, and I, and the laptop, and my chop suey typing, right? Getting shit done. So, mate, besides the hustle, you know, another thing that folks need to do is they need to brush shoulders with people like yourself. Okay? They need to brush shoulders with folks that are wholesaling in 3 markets like you are, that have successful businesses, right? You are who you're with. Okay? I always said that, and people ask me, Engelo, how did you get so successful? How did you get to where you are today? And it's such a simple answer, mate. Well, first of all, I tell them I hustle my ass off every single day. And second, I ask questions of people who are where I want to be, right? And that's what it takes. That is what it takes. You just have to brush shoulders with other successful people and ask a ton of questions, no matter how stupid they may sound.
Let me ask you this question, a specific how-to, right? So for somebody who's listening and from somebody who's obviously had some good results of networking and doing it the right way, what would be some steps or suggestions or mindset approach or even some questions that you could go to a networking event and ask? I mean, what's the right way that you found over the years to be the most productive, to get the most out of your networking time?
Great question, mate. Look, be different. Be different. I was in Vegas over the weekend for a 3-day conference there, and the Grant Cardone was speaking, Ty Lopez and Com Mirza, right? And what I did, mate, is I've got this weird dingo cap where it says hashtag the dingo on the back of it. I was the only one wearing a cap, right? So I had quite a lot of people come up to me and say, hey, that's a pretty cool hat. I mean, what does the hashtag the dingo stand for? It's a conversation starter, right? I always wear crazy sneakers, crazy colored shirts, just ridiculous stuff. You see our branding, Dan. I mean, we're very loud and proud online. Everything we do is different. So that would be a good starting point, is try and differentiate yourself from the crowd. Don't just be another bloody suit. Or if you're going to wear a suit, throw on a pink suit jacket. I mean, who gives a shit what other people say? Really, I don't care what anyone else says then. I really don't, right? I don't focus on other people's businesses. I focus on myself, right? Jim Rohn said there's 2 ways to grow the tallest building in town. Number 1, you grow yours the tallest. And number 2, you knock everyone else's over. Well, I just focus on growing mine the tallest. And I advise everyone else to focus on growing theirs the tallest and to ignore all of the noise out there. So be different, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing I could say is you have to approach people. I mean, you have to approach people. Unless you're freaking ridiculously good looking like George Clooney or Antonio Banderas, you're never going to get a kid to come up to you at a restaurant and say, hey, you want to have a drink? You want to, go for dinner? It's not going to happen. So you have to be the one to take that next step. Now, I'm kind of going off topic here with chicks and restaurants, but let's get back.
It's right on point.
Let's get back to real estate terms. Still, the same principle applies. I mean, if you see 2 folks talking at a networking event, join in. Be confident. Put out your hand and say, hey, I'm Engelo Rumora. I just wanted to introduce myself. You 2 seem like you're interesting and you're discussing something and I want to be a part of it, right? And so what if they think you're a complete douchebag and a dickhead? Like, it doesn't matter. Move on to someone else. You're not gonna have everyone liking who you are and what you're doing. And I've found this out the hard way, Dan. We are clean. If you Google Engelo Rumora right now, you will not find no dirt thrown on my name. Check out the rip-off report. Spend $35 on a background search. I mean, hire a detective to follow me around. You will find nothing, right? Our business is clean. I am clean. My employees are clean. But there's still people hating. They don't like the way I look. They don't like the way I talk. They don't like the size of my nose, whatever it may be. So you can't satisfy everyone. Be different. Approach people confidently and just, go with the flow. There's my advice.
Well said.
How about that?
I like it.
I should start charging for value.
Yeah. So how long did it take you? Obviously, you got here, and then how long did it take since you stepped foot in the United States until today? I mean, how long have you been working on this, what you have now?
Oh, wow, mate. Look, check this out. It took me $37,000 of different visa applications before I actually have the current residency status that I have today. I mean, that was probably the biggest hurdle, mate. U.S. immigration is a coin toss, right? They literally base their perceptions of your intentions, right? It's funny. It's really, really funny stuff. But, mate, look, it's taken a while. I mean, before we started Ohio Cash Flow, I had around 50 plus things on the to-do list that had to be executed on before Ohio Cash Flow can actually open its doors. Now, I went through a really, really, really bad patch when I moved here around a year to a year and a half into my US venture here. I hit the bottom, mate. My grandma passed away. My mum got diagnosed with cancer. I broke my left wrist and couldn't fix it. Dominique and I were eating peanut butter for breakfast and drinking $1 gas station coffees. I had $1.1 million in debt in Australian properties. I had literally no money to my name. I felt like the whole world was caving in. So that was the absolute rock bottom of my life. That was back in Kansas City. And then, the life-changing moment happened when my grandma passed away. I just felt something, take over me. I knew that right there and then I had nothing more to lose. And that is when we really started moving and shaking. We started doing a lot of cold calls, sending out a lot of emails, really, hammering down, like working 24/7 just to make ends meet. And it was 9 months into Dominique and I sitting side by side working in a little shitty office in a corridor there in a commercial building in Kansas City where we had our breakthrough. We established a relationship with a hedge fund and literally sold 22 properties in the space of like 6 weeks. And that kind of gave us a starting capital. I know, right? And that gave us a starting capital to actually bring this dream of Ohio Cash Flow to fruition. We moved to Toledo, Ohio a couple of months after that and slowly started building what, everyone can see right now.
First of all, I want to say I'm sorry for the loss of your grandma. It's great that you were able to see, a silver lining or that tragedy in your life that was able to then grow into something positive. So I just like to kind of mention that first there.
Thank you.
So Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah.
What precipitated your decision? Because I think this is important. Like, I have a guy like you on the show, and most everybody that's on the show grows up in Toledo, and or they grow up in Chicago, and they buy in Chicago. They basically stay within, 30-minute drive of where they were born. And my life was the same way until I moved from Philadelphia to Chicago, and that expanded my horizon, and that allowed me to look around at Florida and then start doing deals in 3 different markets. And my decision was driven by my daughter living in Chicago, and we used to go back and forth for 10 years. And finally, I looked around at my business and was blessed to see that I could move to Chicago, run, businesses in different cities with great people around me. And that was what prompted me to make that decision and that move. But I'm curious to know, what was it that drove your decision to move to Toledo, Ohio from Kansas City?
Mate, well, it had to be the beautiful weather and all of the beaches, right? No, I'm kidding. No.
Yeah, I hear that.
Look, when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, right, we're going back to Mr. $100 million man in Australia. That gave me the foundations of me being the entrepreneur that I am today, right? And look, I speak to so many investors, Dan, on a daily basis, and it just drives me absolutely nuts how they have this crappy mindset, which I just wish I could kick out of them, right? Everyone that is looking at investing in real estate or buying a particular property or whatever it may be, they always get caught up in the stats and demographics, okay? The vacancy statistics, the capital growth projections, how much profit am I going to make, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that is all good and great. You have to know your numbers, but you have to switch the priority around, mate. It is not the numbers in the deal that are going to make you money. It's the team, okay? Teamwork makes the dream work. So I always tell everyone, please, I'm begging you. Okay, now we work with a lot of investors that are out of state and country, right? So I tell them you have to establish relationships with the right people on the ground that are always going to have your best interests at heart. Okay, that is the number one priority. Once you have the right people that are going to be on board with your investment endeavors for the next 5, 10, or 15 years, then start looking at the actual stats and demographics and vacancy statistics and all that bullshit, right? You have to have the people in place first. And that stands for one particular transaction or for an entire business, okay? And that is how I started with Ohio Cash Flow, and that is how we initially moved to Toledo. At the time, I felt that I had the most trustworthy people that I could trust here, that were genuine and that had that bigger picture and vision in mind. They weren't about instant gratification, making a quick dollar and disappearing. They were all about, having the same core beliefs that I did and believing in that, long-term process. Because, mate, 1 or 2 deals does not bring you financial freedom. It takes 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 properties before you can actually start living life on your terms. So don't work with people that are all about that instant gratification, making a quick dollar and not caring about the long-term picture. So that is kind of how we ventured into Toledo, mate. It was looking at the people first. Then, once I established the people, mate, I'll tell you what, I don't think that there is a city out there, even though it's very biased what I'm saying right now, but I don't think that there's any other market or city out there that has better numbers than what we have in Toledo. I mean, you are getting amazing bang for your buck for the properties here in solid B-class areas with blue-collar working class tenants. I mean, I live, Dan, in the exact same areas that I invest in and sell in to our investors. That speaks volumes of how, good these areas are. So once I established the people and once I started looking into the numbers, I mean, it was just an absolute no-brainer. We had to take that leap of faith. We had to make the move here. And, we started back then what you can see right now, which is a, very successful and one of the best branded and most reputable turnkey companies in the country.
Let's talk about the actual numbers of a couple of the deals here. I have a few questions I wrote down. I'm taking notes as I always do during these. I've got already a ton of stuff from our conversation, our time here together, but how many deals at Turnkey Rentals have you done so far? And I guess that same question might be answered with how many units you're currently managing with Ohio Cash Flow for other investors and yourself.
Awesome, man. Great question. So we have done, I've personally been involved in over 350 real estate transactions over the last 4.5 years of my real estate endeavors. Now, out of that, I would say we've done, not Ohio Cash Flow, but I've personally done, because don't forget, I lived in Kansas City first, so I did quite a few buy, fix, and flips there. I probably did around 50 or 60 there. I would say that Ohio Cash Flow has done over 100 deals, okay, over the last couple of years. Now, we only have 50 plus properties under management, okay, because we initially had a sales channel that we were working with here at the time, which was an overseas sales channel. And what they wanted us to do was they wanted us to buy, fix, tenant, stabilize, and pass on to their property management. So we never held on to those properties under management. And we easily did over 50 deals with them, okay? So right now we've got just over 50 deals under management. I'm looking at my whiteboard here right now, and we're growing. I mean, we're growing that at 3 to 5 per month especially now this year. This is the year where we've really kind of taken things to the next level and really ramped up. Now, the funny thing with that is, Dan, and I'll tell you something that no one else in the country does, and that's the key differentiator that we have compared to anyone else. I have had 209 sales calls with investors over the last 6 months to a year. Okay, people wanting to buy our product, people wanting to buy, through a high cash flow. We have only taken on board 35 investors. Okay, so out of 209 sales calls of people that are very interested in working with a high cash flow, we have only decided to work with 35 investors. I am not about volume there. I do not want to sell thousands of properties to hundreds of investors. I am happy selling 100 to 200 a year to only the people that I want to be working with, right? So that's the big difference. And I don't know of anyone else out there that says no to profit, that says no to a sale. We say no more than we say yes.
So why did you pull the management in-house? What drove that decision?
Have to do it. I mean, you can't have a successful turnkey company unless you have an outsourced property management company. Unless you are, in a full-blown partnership with that outsourced property management company, I mean, it's just not going to work. So you have to have in-house property management. And look, property management companies are set up to nickel and dime. Okay, what they do is they don't give a shit if the tenant's not paying. As soon as they don't pay, they post a 3-day notice to pay or quit on the 5th. Okay, and then they will file for an eviction after that 3-day notice straight away. They want to get your tenant out so they can, first of all, charge you ridiculous fees for cleaning up the property, and second of all, charge you more fees for 1.5 months rent for new tenant placement. Property management companies, Dan, don't make money on the 10% monthly fee. They make money on tenant turnover. So when I started my investing here in upper state New York from Australia, I lost my ass. I mean, I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars buying turnkey properties from the wrong providers, being passed on to outsourced property management that will nickel and dime me to death and not give a shit about me. So I had to make it different. I had to change it up. And what we did, and even though it's a pain in the ass, mate, property management sucks, we had to bring it in-house. Okay, I've got 2 full-time property managers right now looking after, the 50 or so properties that we have on the management. We're going to grow that book of business to easily over 100 this year, and we're going to start scaling it, over the next couple of years. So I've already got the property management in place to be able to handle the demand, right? But there's no other way of having a successful turnkey company, mate. When I sell you a property, Dan, right, it's all good and great. I've made a profit and we're happy. But you're not going to buy more. You're not going to refer me to anyone else unless you have ongoing success. And the only way that I can control your ongoing success is to own and manage properties in-house. They're right next door. I can go knock on that door right now and see how everything's going. And that is, once again, that's the differentiator that we have compared to a lot of other companies out there, mate. I don't know of many that have in-house property management. I really don't.
So let me ask you this question. I want to dive down into one example deal here. I've had the opportunity, and I know of a few highly successful overseas sales companies and things of that nature, but I want to go through some details of, like, let's say one specific deal, quick, short answers. How did the buyer, the client, you don't have to give me the person's name, but like the client avatar who bought the last turnkey rental property, how did they finance that transaction, Engelo?
Cash.
So they're buying it for cash. And then give me the purchase price of that property.
Okay, this particular one was $59,900. So $59,900.
And how much of a renovation did you put in there, and what did you pay for it? If you don't want to answer that, I completely understand.
I don't want to answer it.
That's fair.
I'll tell you why, Dan. This is why I don't want to answer it. And it sucks that this is the world we live in. Unfortunately, when people, investors and other folks in general start knowing your numbers, right? Everyone is all about how much can I get, Dan? What is it in it? How much is in it for me, right? I want you to get the least amount possible, and I want me to get the most possible. If you are doing well and making money, I'm not happy. I want to be the only one getting the best deal and the best cap rate and knowing that I've bought the cheapest property I could possibly buy. So it sucks, mate. I wish I could reveal my numbers, Dan. I wish I could, but I just know that there's not many folks out there that have that type of mindset of, I don't give a shit what you're making as long as I am getting good value, right? So that is the only reason, mate, why we don't reveal our figures. But I'll tell you this, we are very thorough in our rehabs, okay? So we normally buy very distressed properties that do need quite a bit of work, okay? We'll either have to replace the furnace, the hot water heater, electrical. We like to buy properties that will have a roof with at least a 10-year lifespan on it, so we don't have to touch the roof. Of course, you've got the standard paint, interior paint, light fittings, new carpet, relaminate the countertops, lino on the floor, lino in the bathroom, lino in the kitchen, all that fun stuff. I like to say nothing sexy, nothing flash, very fundamental. Okay, you can't forget these homes are $50,000 to $70,000 properties. You can't overcapitalize on the rehab. Whatever we do, we make sure that it's durable and that it will last. Okay, so I hope you don't mind, mate, not revealing those figures, but I'm happy to reveal them in person one day with you. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's fair. And I deal with some of the same thing. And for me, I've dealt with that through supply and demand, because the deals that are available for sale, I have the same issue that you have. And I was around in 2010 and 2011 when there weren't as many buyers, and when you had that as a legitimate objection, and the one guy would look at you. Usually the people that actually survived when the market crashes and it's in shambles, those people don't give a shit what you're making. So it's not as much of an issue as that would be now when you have like newer investors who are less sophisticated and they're personally insulted that I might make $15,000 or $20,000 on one deal. So for me, it's a supply and demand thing. I might have 20 to 25 deals available for sale, waiting to settle. I don't know, maybe there's like 35 deals right now on my whiteboard. And it's a supply and demand thing, in the fact that there's more demand for my deals that people can make a profit on, that they can buy, rehab, refinance, and get all their cash out of. There's not as many of those deals. My properties are the absolute cheapest properties that you will ever find on the MLS. So when it comes down to it, I usually have more than one person, and it's kind of a takeaway close. So it's like, yes, the assignment fee is $25,000 on this deal, but I have somebody else who will also pay that same amount. So what do you want to do? And we have no problem, telling them that. But that's how we've been able to kind of like deal with that objection, by creating a supply and demand economic situation in favor of us because we're the house and we have the source of deals. Never mind the fact, just like you do, I have a ton of costs on the other side. I got the cost of money. I got the cost of advertising. There's 20,000 letters per month going out the door that have to continue going out the door even in November and December when the phone's not ringing, and January, and then we finally get started making money again in February. Let me get back to the example. So 59.9, what is the rent on that property? Would you feel comfortable answering that one for us and giving us an idea of the cap rate that these things actually trade hands on?
Yeah, it's around $850 per month. Okay, so it's $850 per month. After you do all of your expenses, it will be a 13 to 15% gross cap rate. So I always like to say that the average bread and butter or higher cash flow property is between $55,000 to $70,000. It will rent from around $750 to $950 per month, showing a gross cap rate of 13 to 15%. And then if you deduct your property taxes, you deduct your property taxes, you deduct your 10% property management, you deduct your insurance, you do an estimate for maintenance and vacancy. I never advise anyone take off more than 10 to 15% from the bottom line. You arrive at around the 9% net cap rate. Now, we have a 1-year maintenance guarantee in place, so we cover, any maintenance issues that would arise within the first year. And if anything major was to go wrong, it would happen within the first year. So after that 1 year is up, you are good to go for, in my opinion, for at least another, 3 years, if not longer, before another bigger hiccup might come up. But the beauty about it is, mate, no one is ever going to know how much I put my hand in my own pocket to cover any little miscellaneous things that come up. And that's another reason why, mate, we keep it so exclusive. We keep it limited. We only work with a very selected amount of investors because, everyone has succeeded, Dan. Everyone. 2 years now, no one has lost money. And as long as I'm kicking and breathing, no one will lose money because that is our promise. That is what we do. We don't steal. We don't cheat. We don't lie. Our promise is to do our absolute best at any given moment. So, yeah, mate, that's one of the rough numbers there for you.
Do you guarantee a year of the rent or anything like that for that first tenant? I imagine that you place that tenant and, that would be, I'm just playing devil's advocate, but that might be one of my things is the same thing you talked about the mixed intentions of a property management company who has a vested interest in nickel and diming and doing turnovers, right? So to combat that, is there any guarantee of that tenant placement that you guys offer for those buyers? No, we don't offer a rental guarantee, and I'll tell you why. Unfortunately, the perception of a lot of investors out there is once again, we're going back to that profit aspect. Look, mate, I feel like the Red Cross most weeks. I've got people crying on the phone to me from all over the world. Okay, you have to understand a lot of foreign investors have gotten screwed very badly here in the US by these turnkey sharks. Okay, so what the perception out there is, as soon as you offer a rental guarantee, right, you are automatically making so much money that you can afford to cover any losses that are incurred by the property being vacant, right? And where the biggest fear factor there is of many investors, and I'm very active on Bigger Pockets, so I know what the broad market is talking about turnkey. By the way, everyone hates turnkey. We're like the devil. If you say that you're a turnkey company, it's like 666, stay away. They're going to sell you a shit property in a shit area for more than what it's worth with shit property management. They're going to screw you. You're going to lose money. Unfortunately, that is the truth of 99% of the providers out there. So look at this example, Dan. Detroit houses were selling for $5,000. They were supposedly putting $5,000 into them, renting for $500 per month, but they were selling them for $45,000. But they weren't ever tenanting them. So what they would do is they would offer a 2-year rental guarantee, right? And they would pay out the $6,000 per year out of pocket, right? So they're into the deal for 10 plus the $6,000 for the first year, $6,000 for the second year. So that's what? $22,000 that they would have invested, but they would sell them for $45,000. So it was kind of a Ponzi scheme. Right? Yeah. That's right. And that's what people are kind of fearful of right now. So I don't offer a rental guarantee. But check this out. If a property becomes vacant for whatever reason, I cover the rent. I don't promise that on paper, but I do it. We do that. Oh, you just do it.
We do that.
Yeah.
We do it. So I just thought, once again, mate, it sucks. It really sucks. And I'm trying to promote the brand and tell people who we are and what we do and all that fun stuff. I got slammed on the forums for offering a maintenance guarantee. They're like, oh, you're doing shit work. That's why you're offering a maintenance guarantee. No, Dan, that is not why I'm offering a maintenance guarantee. Let me tell you why I'm offering a maintenance guarantee. You can't rehab a 3-year vacant home to perfection. There is going to be things that are going to come up once the tenant moves in and they start using the gas, the electricity, and the water to full capacity. We can't see what's going on under the ground. We can't see what's going on in the slab. We can't see what's going on in the cable from the street to the house, right? So imagine this. Let's say that I sell your property, Dan, for $54,900, and 2 months later, you have your main burst, and it's going to cost, $3,000 to fix. You're going to come back to me, or you're going to go online and say that I'm shit. Because I supposedly sold you a property that's supposed to be fully renovated, right, to perfection. That's what the perception is of a lot of investors out there, right? So that is why we offer the 1-year maintenance guarantee. If shit hits the fan within the first year, we will fix it, right? I'm done.
Nice. Cool.
I'm done with my
cool. All right, so we got the numbers, right? And you're doing your goal, or you're doing your capacity is 3 to 5 per month. So tell me how you're finding these properties. Are these all MLS Bankcode or are you doing marketing directly to sellers? I mean, what's the mix look like for Deal Source, Engelo?
Mate, first year we did most of our purchases, believe it or not, through Craigslist, which is quite interesting, right? So we started a higher cash flow in April of 2014, right? So now it's our 2-year anniversary coming up here in a week. And from April till the end of the year, we did around 20 or so deals. And they were, believe it or not, mate, all through Craigslist. I mean, I was stalking Craigslist like a madman, and literally just knowing the market and calling everyone and anyone and buying properties. Right? Then it kind of transitioned into a bit of MLS, even though MLS hasn't really served us that well last year. This year, on the other hand, is serving us really well. Now, what I'm doing, just like you said, we're doing yellow letter campaigns. I think that, sending mailers out to absentee homeowners in our target zip codes, we will always pick up a few deals. So I'll give you the rough numbers there. We've been getting more consistent with these mailers. I haven't really been too consistent with them before because a lot of the deals, even though they are good deals, because we don't wholesale, they have to fit a particular business model, and we don't get to pick up that many out of the mailers that we sent. So I never kind of thought it was a great tool for inventory, but now I'm starting to warm up to it more because we are getting quite a few deals. The more I send, the more responses I get and the more properties I pick up. Yeah, common sense logic. I know, Dan, I didn't realize it before, okay? So don't give me shit for it. But
fair enough.
Out of 1,000 that we send, mate, I might pick up 1 or 2 deals, okay, for our turnkey model, which is really, really good. So I would say right now, mate, the biggest mix of inventory would be the MLS and yellow letters. And as I told you about the big expense that I made before we actually started this interview, I'm not going to go public with it yet. So you can't share that with anyone, okay? Yeah. If I wasn't so strapped for cash right now, spending all of my money on a lifestyle choice, one other thing that we would be hitting hard, which we did last year, would be auction sites. Hubzoo is a great one. HUD Home Store is another great one. Auction.com is another one. And we've got a few local ones here in Toledo, a few private little auction companies that we could, definitely be bidding on. But, you have to have deep pockets there, mate. I mean, if we're going to go crazy with those auctions, I mean, I want to have at least, over $1 million lying around, just sitting there, lazy, doing nothing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me, something must have changed, I would assume, just because I know what the MLS is about. In your process or your search or your skill level with the MLS, what was the breakthrough between last year and now that started to result in deals? And if you don't want to share that because it might be a competitive edge for people in your market, that's fine too.
Mate, breakthrough, more money. I mean, more money, Dan. I mean, if you've got the money sitting in an account, I mean, when that right deal comes along, you can churn it. You know what I mean? And I remember, being strapped for cash and not being able to take these awesome deals that were coming across my desk because I was waiting to sell out of one property and, get the money back before I could invest it into another one. I mean, at the end of the day, mate, if you want to play, you have to pay. And if you're sitting on deep pockets, if you've got cash at hand, you can take down a lot of properties, right? From yellow letters to MLS to the auction sites. So I think that's the biggest turning point for us is we started getting more cash. We started sitting on more cash. And then we started buying more properties. We started taking all of those opportunities that we could not take before because, mate, you know, I moved to the US with nothing. I mean, look, this is not a rags to riches story. It's a rags to hustle your ass off story, as I always like to say. But, you know, I moved here with over $1 million in debt and 15 grand in cash, right? And now we've got a company that's doing millions and millions of dollars in revenue 2 years later after starting it, right? So, you know, it's hard, mate. The first 2 years are very hard. I mean, with any business, I'm so proud to be where we are today, and we've worked very hard to be where we are today, but I'm excited about where we're going to be in the next 2 years. So without rambling, you know, on and on and on, mate, I think that ultimately the big differentiator there is having the money in your account. And I always like to tell everyone, keep costs at a minimum and drive revenue. When you have the money in your account, then, I mean, you can do wonders. You can scale your yellow letters. You're sending 20,000 a month. Shit, dude, if I was sending that many a month, I would own half of Toledo in a year. You know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. You know, when you've got the money, you can spend it on the yellow letters. You can spend it on, I'm just creating a website right now, www.sellyourhousetoledo.com. I'm going to start pumping money into that. I'm going to rank on the first page of Google ahead of any other realty company here in town. That's going to give me more leads. So I would say the money side of things is going to be a changing point for anyone in their real estate endeavors.
Nice. I have one question before we get to our wrap-up questions here. I wanted to ask him, what the hell is a lifestylepreneur?
Haha, lifestylepreneur, mate. All right, check this out. Love it. So I'm changing my entrepreneur tag or whatever you want to call it to lifestylepreneur. Mate, what that means is just not being tied to one particular location. Okay, that is lifestylepreneur. So imagine doing everything that you are doing right now, Dan, but not having to be in your office at all. Being able to do it from wherever the hell you want to do it. Now, with that being said, you still have to have control over all of your books, all of your accounting, all of your finances, your entire team, all of the acquisitions, all of the sales, this interview, this podcast that you're doing, I mean everything. So that is lifestylepreneur. Sitting on the beach in the Bahamas, sipping pina coladas and making your business run smoothly just with a phone or a computer. Okay. So that is, I think that the entrepreneur, right? The word entrepreneur is out of fashion. Then it's out of fashion. If you jump on Instagram right now, you're going to see a lot of young idiot kids that are broke posting about, you know, a car that they rented for the day and a fake Rolex watch that they bought in Shenzhen, China, right? They don't understand what the meaning of being an entrepreneur is, mate. Entrepreneur is someone like yourself. Entrepreneur is someone like me that busts ass all day and every day non-stop. Yes, we have the cars. Yes, we have the watches. We don't have to parade it. We don't have to flash it, right? It's bigger. The purpose of being an entrepreneur is bigger than the materialistic things that it gives, right? One of my favorite quotes is by Tony Robbins: success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Okay, being an entrepreneur is about being fulfilled with what you're doing every single day. So I'm sick and tired of seeing all of these young kids on Instagram posting about bullshit entrepreneurship stuff. So I decided to say, screw that. I'm not going to classify myself as an entrepreneur anymore. I'm going to classify myself as a lifestylepreneur, even though I'm not there yet, but I'm really working towards becoming a lifestylepreneur.
I like it. And that's kind of what allowed me to move from Philadelphia to Chicago. Was I built a business that we could definitely consider a lifestylepreneur business. And the inspiration for me for that was Tim Ferriss's book, 4 Hour Work Week, that I read, you know, twice, 3 times. And then finally a few of the items sunk in, and I was able to build a business that I could run remotely from Chicago or a hotel room in Florida or a hotel room basically anywhere I have an internet connection. And I've done these podcast interviews from hotel rooms. You know, I do them at my desk here looking out at Lake Michigan, which is kind of a beach. I guess we call that the Middle Coast here. So yeah, I mean, I'm living the life, and I think I found a new tag for what I'm a real estate lifestylepreneur. Thanks, Engelo.
Love it. Love it, man. That's it, baby. Change it up.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome, dude. Well done. Yeah, man. That's it. And E-Myth is another good one. 4 Hour Work Week is a great one. Traction by Gina Wickman. You got to read that one. That's another great book too. So yeah, mate, love those 3 books for sure.
Sweet. So who is the most successful real estate investor or developer, and why? And it could be somebody you know personally, public publicly, dead or alive, but the important aspect of this question is the why, in case you don't want to name the person, why you think they're successful.
Mate, okay, so check this out. I love Mr. Donald Trump.
All right, fair enough.
I don't care. Hey, sorry, mate. Did you say something?
I said, and why?
And why? Okay. No, I love Trump because he's different and he just doesn't give a shit. Okay. And I resonate to him. I mean, I just don't care. I really do not care. Because if you start caring about, all of the noise that all of the haters are saying out there, you're not going to achieve anything. You're not going to do anything. So out of the big celebrity people that, are kind of out there right now, I don't believe in any of the real estate gurus. They're all a bunch of scammers, wankers, liars, cheaters, bad criminal backgrounds and all kinds of stuff. There is no one in this country right now that can say that they do not have a bad criminal background. There's one person that I know who's a guru, and his name is Cody Sperber. He's out in Arizona. He's the only legitimate guru out there that's selling a course or a product, okay? So Trump is the big one. Cody Sperber. And then my business partner, brother, Brian Blankenship, mate, I can tell you this. I believe that you know him. A lot of folks know this guy, but he doesn't like to parade his name out there. He is the most successful real estate investor that I have ever known and ever had the pleasure of doing business with. He's a multi-gazillionaire. He's got the relationships and connections that no one else has. No one else will ever have, and he doesn't parade it. He's not on bigger pockets. He's not selling courses. He's not selling books. He doesn't believe in that because he makes more money doing it, right? So, yeah, mate, there you go. Trump, Curtis Sperber, and brother Brian Blankenship.
Nice. Nice list. So I know we just mentioned a few books, but do you have 2 or 3 life-changing books, either real estate business, mindset, and success related that we didn't mention?
I do, mate. Look, the 2 Bibles of entrepreneurship or lifestylepreneurship, as we're starting to call it now, Dan.
Yes, sir.
I would say, look, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill by far, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. You got to check those out, guys.
Nice. And then one last content question here. If you could share the crown jewel of wisdom with your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Be more patient. Be more patient and do not get caught up in the noise. Ignore the noise because there's always going to be noise. Just focus on yourself. Keep moving forward no matter how many times they knock you down. Pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and just keep moving forward.
Nice, well said. So do you have some contact information, websites, anything like that you'd like to share if people want to find out more about you?
Sure do, mate. Pretty easy. Facebook. I love Facebook. So jump on Facebook, add me, Engelo Rumora. Add me as a friend. Dan, if you could have a link in the show description, that would be great. And also my Facebook page is The Real Estate Dingo. Okay, so The Real Estate Dingo. If you can like that page, that is all that I want from you guys. I do not need anything else. Yeah, I've got nothing for sale, Dan. I do a ton of these interviews and podcasts, and I always want to deliver a ton of content for people. To be honest with you, I don't like talking about our business that much. I would prefer talking about other broad things. But, if everyone could just follow me add me on Facebook and like my page, that would be awesome.
Cool. Well, listen, Engelo, thank you for coming on the show. I got like 3-4 pages of notes here. I got a ton of great ideas, quotes, books. So I hope everybody listening did as well.
Mate, thanks for having me. Really, really appreciate it, Dan. I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon.
Sweet. And thank you all for listening to this episode of the REI Diamond Show. Are you receiving new episode notification emails on Saturday? If you'd like to, you can sign up at reidiamonds.com. Thanks again for listening. Dan Breslin here, and I'll catch you next time. Remember, here at the REI Diamond Show, we're dedicated to helping you increase and protect your net worth.
Thanks for listening to the REI Diamond Interview. To receive the REI Diamonds newsletter and interview monthly, sign up now at www.reidiamonds.com.